Hello, this is Lydia 130613. I did a editing breakdown and reaction last time when Jungkook did the Tokyo GCF, and someone almost immediately when the new one came out asked me to do another one, so here I am. I don't think there's quite as much to say about this one from the first time I watched it, but I've only watched it once, so I'll probably find more stuff as I go along. There's definitely some cool stuff in it that's worth mentioning, so here we go. Okay. Oh, splash screen. First things first is a letterbox open. So letterbox is just the word for these two. You know, when you see like widescreen films on TV, you see these two normally black bars. Usually or traditionally, they were there because the footage was made for the cinema, and TVs are a different shape, and therefore they had to put the bars in to make it fit so it wouldn't be too wide for the TV screen. I doubt that Jungkook's camera takes widescreen film footage, so I imagine it's just an aesthetic thing that he's used. So basically, I think he's actually keyframed these. So what he literally would have done is like make two solids of this color, and then literally keyframe the sizes changing. And you can actually see he's done it in time to the music, so it stops there, and then it opens again. The other interesting thing is obviously they're not, like I said, they're not black like the normal letterboxes are. I have seen that happening quite a lot recently, where people are using the letterbox as an actual creative part of the thing rather than just. I mean, people tend to just stick them on things now because it gives it kind of like a cinematic look. They're kind of just a decorative thing anyway, but people are using them in a more creative way where they use it to like match the color scheme of the video, the footage. One I can think of straight off is happening a lot in music videos. So one I can think of is, I can't remember which subunit it was, NCT Cherry Bomb. They used like a bright pink one. And another one where they used it really interestingly was actually RM and Wale changed. They had separate footage playing in the letterbox at the same time the normal footage, so it was kind of like disorientating and strange. So, which I thought was really, I could do a whole breakdown of that video because it's just a really well edited video to the extent I actually followed the like post-production guy on Instagram because I love it so much. So yeah, that's just what Jungkook's done here, and it's interesting because it means that he is watching other stuff, not necessarily that he got this from NCT or whatever, but he is watching other people's work and taking ideas from it, which is always a good idea to do. If you find like a video you really love the editing on, and you download it and you go through it like I am now, like sort of frame by frame, and see everything you like about it, that's a really good idea just for being a better editor. Oh, thank you for that, Premiere Pro. Being a better editor. People have asked me what editing program I think he uses. I think my guess is that he's using Premiere Pro, which is what I'm using right now. There's not anything that's immediately obvious about which program he's using, which is good because if you can tell the program straight off, like quite often I can tell, like in fan edits, which program they use within the first few seconds, and it's usually because they've used like fairly generic bog standard effects. They haven't done anything particularly creative. They haven't done anything sort of it's more like a click and drag the effect onto thing, and that's it. Whereas Jungkook's doing stuff manually. So for example, I think I did look to see if that was like this title here. I looked to see if it was like a generic title that comes with Premiere, and I didn't find it because what it's got, you can see it's got the blur there, and it kind of comes into focus, which is really nice because the footage is out of focus as well, so it fits really nicely. So what I think he probably actually did is just did like a basic title and then keyframed the blur so it gradually reduces, and then he keyframes it to fade out. Yeah, so keyframing is basically, you're pretty much just setting like points where you want something to be a certain value, so it could be the scale keyframes to make it bigger, which is I guess what he would have used for the letterbox bars, or it could be the blur effect, any kind of effect or anything like that, the size, the colour, whatever. You're putting like markers in that say what value you want it to be at that certain point. Okay, so obviously this is slowed down, which is nice. And colouring, so obviously that's not natural, normal colouring. What I would say, well, first of all about colouring, you have to remember that pretty much, I mean, Jungkook's done quite an obvious one here. It's kind of like I don't know, it's very obviously, it's obviously not natural, but you have to remember that pretty much everything you watch will have had some color grading done to it, even stuff like Bangtan bombs, and like even they'll just do even like a basic thing of like adjusting the white balance and the blacks and stuff. But also, particularly with watching anything with BTS, you have to always remember that their skin tones will have almost always been adjusted. They'll almost always have been made to look paler than they actually are, so it's almost like you can't judge the colouring based on their skin tones. Like Jungkook's used colouring here that's actually quite orangey and yellow, so you can actually see people's more natural, because I'm assuming these people are Japanese, that's more of a natural skin tone rather than kind of like a whitewashed one. So you can never kind of judge based on their skin what the colouring is, because almost always when you see BTS, they're not the natural colour they're supposed to be. I remember when Spring Day came out and people were going like, oh my god, they look orange. And obviously, yeah, there was, you know, kind of a yellowy orange colour grading on Spring Day, but actually it was closer to what they actually are really. It's just we so rarely see them without the whitewashing. And even on V Live it comes, there's a default filter on V Live that makes everyone look paler, because you see people turn it off sometimes and suddenly they're not glowing dazzlingly white. So you have to kind of bear that in mind when you're looking at colouring. So what Jungkook's probably used for this is a LUT, which is, what's it stand for? Lookup table. So basically, as opposed to sort of dragging colours on top of something, which can often distort the natural colours and, you know, change colours that you didn't want to change, what a LUT does is it's like a mathematical formula where it specifically targets specific like tones within and values within the colour, so it could change the saturation or the, you know, make one hue like blue, put the value of the blue up higher. You can see in this one that the black is not very deep, so that's been affected in it. It's not as sort of jet black as it could be. So that's, you know, that's one thing that's been adjusted with this LUT. So he would have probably used like an adjustment layer on, which is almost like another clip on top of the normal footage, and then use a LUT on that, which means you can change the colouring and everything without kind of messing up bits, and only only bring out specific colours. So if you look, oh, it keeps doing that. So you see here, obviously the blue is popping out really, really obviously, and the yellow as well. So kind of this kind of, I did say this for the last one, but this kind of colouring is getting really, and you can see Hoseok's skin is more brown than maybe you'd expect to see. I shouldn't have paused there, it's too funny. But it's kind of like a really fashionable colour type of colour grading at the moment. It's called like teal and orange, and I can't remember if I said this in the last video, but there's a guy called Sam Kolder, it's Kolder, and he made this kind of colouring really like trendy and popular, and also the spin transition he made really popular as well. So you'll see this kind of colouring quite a lot. You probably can deal with it. And you can also see that again the darker parts are a bit more washed out than they would normally be, which is, you know, just kind of an aesthetic choice, because if you have your blacks really, really black, it means you would lose, like you see the lines here, is that a curtain, where you would lose that detail if your blacks, I don't know, I think they call it crushed, if they're too crushed, where you can't actually see detail. So, but it's more of an aesthetic thing here. Oh, that's cute. See, obviously here, this is very, very blue. That's the colour grading. I think also Jungkook's also picked the letterbox colour to match with the colour grading, which is nice. But what you can see here, for example, is because I said the blue obviously really pops out, if it was just a thing of you slap it on top of it, which is what people often do with like effects, where they just, it's on top, it's just on the footage rather than working with the values within the footage, then you would see like the whites would be blue as well. But they're not, because it's not targeting that yellowy, it's not targeting that specific colour, which is the difference between just sort of dragging one colouring onto it. He probably also adjusted the colouring as he went along, because it's not good to just use one LUT with all the same like values for the entire thing because you're going to get bits where it looks strange because the lighting was different or whatever. So. That's nice because he did this well last time in the Tokyo one where he makes the beat of the song and the lyrics of the song kind of match to what he's doing. Was that actually? Did he actually just? Let me just check that. I was just wondering if that was a real transition, if that was really him moving the camera or a transition, but I think it was just him moving the camera. So obviously, yeah, the blue, and you can see when I said about the teal and orange, so you can see that orange is popping out there. It's just a really, really popular style of colouring at the moment. Obviously, that's sped up unless it's a really, really, really fast lift. He did this on the Tokyo one again, where he's using just nothing black as like a beat within the editing, if that makes sense. So it's just can be really effective sometimes to use just nothing. So obviously slow down again. Turn it down a bit. Sped up again. He loves speeding and slowing things down, doesn't he? And we had a little jump there as well. So instead it's still one shot of Taeyong, but a little jump, which can just add a sort of a bit more energy to the editing. And again, another jump and another jump. God, he keeps doing it. See, jump, jump. And here he did this in GCF, I remember specifically when Jimin was walking to the taxi, so he has just one long shot, but he cuts bits out, so it makes kind of a jump. There we go, yeah. It just makes me laugh, because I just imagine Jungkook just stood there on his own in the room, filming. Okay, so obviously he's put some static in here. I don't know if Premiere comes with some like default static effects. What he might have done is just literally looked for like some free static stock footage on YouTube, which is pretty easy to find. I'm interested that he did this bit because obviously he didn't need to stop the music here. Clearly he just wants, I don't know, extra focus to be on. If you do anything kind of dramatic in editing, like something I quite often do is like suddenly switch from black and white to colour, for example. So if you do something dramatic, it's usually to draw attention to whatever it is. Sped up again. And interesting thing is he also kept he had the audio sped up instead of muting it. That's so cute. Slow down again. What you will find with, if you ever slow footage down, I think he's kind of had it happening. Oh. There we go. Right. You can get, it can be a little bit jerky. It's not so obvious here because there's not that much movement going on in the shot anyway, but so it depends on the frame rate of your camera. So for example, if your camera was like 60 frames per second as opposed to like 30, you can slow it down more, the footage down more, without making it kind of jerky and unnatural. I do find that like with especially like big hit stuff, they're quite good that often that when you like, if you download one of their videos from YouTube, you'll find it's like 1080p HD 60 frames per second, which is kind of what you really want from anything you want to edit it with, because then it gives you, it's better quality footage, and it gives you, it's not 4K, but it's better quality footage, and it gives you, because there's more frames per second, it gives you more room to slow it down, which is useful, even just to make the footage you have like match the beat of your music, because if the clip's not long enough and you have a bit that you want it to cover, you can slow it down. But what he's using here is called a speed ramp, which is another thing that's really popular, and another thing that Sam Colder. I wonder if he has watched Sam Colder. I'd be interested to know if he has, because he's using a lot of Sam Colder type stuff, which basically means if you literally imagine like visually a ramp, that's what the speed is doing. So it's going up and then dropping down again, and going up and dropping down. So that's what he's done here. So that was one, and again, and again. Oh my god, I love V-Men. They're so cute. I don't have anything to say about this editing wise. So slow down again, and you can see the blues all popping out again. Sorry, I don't have much to say. Like I said, there's not as much to say about this video. Another speed ramp there. Let's go back. Jungkook's very good at making sure he gets enough footage for like scene setting. I think, do you call it B-roll? I'm not so good about knowing all the terms, but basically just general. You know, like if you're watching like Keeping Up with Kardashians, and they just have a shot of like traffic and people walking around. That's kind of this type of footage. So obviously that's sped up with all the people walking around. He must have been stood there quite a long time. It's nice that he's got different angles. And obviously he manually changed the focus then. He plays with the focus a lot in this video, I've noticed. The actual focus on the camera, so this wouldn't have been done netting, this would have been done at the time. And then it's in focus. And then we have the black again. It's like a beat. Slowed down again. Again, he's playing with the focus there, so you can see all out of focus. He was focusing on the background, and then on Jimin. I like this because this is the only way. Last time with the GCF, the only time Jungkook was actually in the video was in the lift filming the mirror. It's just, I don't know, it's just cute. It's like he always puts himself in, even though he's not in it much. He seems to have, the difference I'm seeing here as well with compared to the Tokyo one is he's doing more like a cameraman, if that makes sense, of that, instead of just like with GCF in Tokyo, it was mainly just sort of following Jimin, whereas this time he's obviously gone on ahead and waited at the top, and he's thought more about like setting up his shots, which is interesting because it's kind of a development from last time. This is quite nice because this is a good, I mean, it's helpful of Taehyung to have done that. He's used Taehyung covering the camera as a transition almost, so it gets to there and then he blacks it. I like using whatever is actually happening in the shot as like a transition. So for example, a really popular one is like they'll have a person walk past and then they'll can't think of the word, then they'll use that as the transition to the next thing. So more black. Oh, so cute. So here he's left like when we actually see Jungkook, he's left his camera on the floor so they can walk up to it and pretend they don't see the camera. So again, it's just kind of thinking in terms of making the shot more interesting and just, I don't know, it's more professional, I think, than the Tokyo one. But Jimin ruins it. I think what Taehyung was meaning to do then was disappear before, because this would have been good for a transition, but he's not done it. So slow down again, speed ramp again, speed ramp again, and again. So he's kind of doing, you see there's a little, that's when the speed jumps up and then the speed goes down again. And then he actually had a cut there. Yeah, there. And again. Oh, my battery's running out. And again, he's used the same kind of title he used at the start, where I assume he has keyframed the blur. Yeah. And faded out as well. So yeah, he's obviously learning and trying new things, which is really interesting. I guess I don't have much else to say. Good job again, Jungkook. He did really well. Thank you for watching. If you want me to do a breakdown of anything else, I will have. For one of the things I thought about doing a breakdown of was the DNA video, because there's some interesting editing in that, or maybe, like I said, the change video has some really cool editing in it. Depends if I can bother. But yeah, so if you are interested in me doing anything like that, let me know. Just remember, I'm not like a professional anything. This is just all stuff I taught myself, so I do apologise if I got anything wrong. Thanks for watching. Bye.